stuff that is like really interesting because we're goal-oriented or mission-driven people that our lives get so absorbed into certain things that we can't even see it. And to see a full-grown man cry who never cried, I mean, out loud, like, I never cried. And now realizing what a strength it is to be able to express emotion and be able to enjoy it and not be shut down and not be so reserved and realize what a freedom that is. And to a lot of males, I mean, that is a hard thing. It really is. I think one of the key factors of really being a man, what a really a man should be, and that is someone who can care and be compassionate and want to restore and want to rekindle life. There are so many males out there that I know that have gone through, either being raped or beaten or abused, and we see the side effects in a society that we only become numbers and we only become a system versus you're an individual and you're worth investing into, and even to the women. And I just so wish that our society in general would really see that and not try to make categories and not try to do that and saying, what you went through is just as valid as what someone else went through, and at the same time, can we come to a place to say, how can we help one another be strong again? Instead of, I don't want to associate with that person because they went through that, or they're struggling with this addiction, or they're struggling with their whatever they're having to overcome. Because really, the more we can actually bind healthy family dynamics, there's some family members I can't be around. It's just the reality. But at the same time, knowing that they have a purpose and they have a place in life, and not to discredit that. And that's really, I feel like that's the greatest value. We should be teaching humanity at this place. Anything that's uncomfortable, we try to push it away or not actually associate with it, instead of saying, it's not that I don't have to associate with it, but I shouldn't pass a judgment on it, and I shouldn't project what it should be, and allowing it to be the way it's meant to be for that individual, for them to walk out.
We shouldn't condone it by denying
its existence.
We condone it by refusing to look at it. We blame the victim because we don't want to deal with it and it's ugly.
Yeah.
As a society, it's shameful that the victims are less important than what the neighbors think.
Yeah. Or in the same place, why is the predator more famous than the victims?
Right.
I mean, to be honest, that shouldn't be acknowledged. It shouldn't be praised. It shouldn't be something that the media, but in a culture that we live in, I'm finding that is so true. And it's like, and this is one of those truths that I live in, and I teach this to lots of people. Your identity is not fundamentally based upon what people think of you or said about you. Your identity is wrapped around who God said you are, and He said that you're perfectly and wonderfully made. He knows everything about you, and you have a plan and a purpose. Out of this fundamental truth, this is so true, and yet we get lied to about it, especially for victims. I see that so often now, even in my own lifetime where I've seen that too, where it's like, how come nothing got done about that? Like, everybody just turns their back and they're okay with that? That's acceptable in the community of people, and they all knew it was going on. Not one person spoke up. Not one person decided to say, hey, there's something wrong here. And I think that that's where something in our culture, we're getting to be so passive. We're trying to be pacifists as a culture. And it's like, no. We need to stand up against what is wrong and say that is wrong and not allow that, not to let that be acceptable. And we do have to stand up for that. But at the same time, not deteriorate them too. Like we see this a lot in church. I mean, and this is just one of those truths, is if you mess up in church, like a pastor has an affair with his wife, we're going to condemn this person unto death almost. Where's His grace? Where's His mercy? Where is that in our hearts? Not for some of our actions, but really in our hearts to say, I can't judge you for that. How can I help you get back to what you're called to do? You are a good leader. You are someone who cares about people. You're someone who did that. Yeah, this happens in life, but that isn't who He is. Where are we to help bring that person back up? And that actually grieves me more times than not when I see things on TV and I see things where it's like, they messed up. They're a human being. Why are we just so condemning them and not allowing their potential to blossom? And now you're killing them. You're actually emotionally killing people doing that. And now it's like, I don't want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of bringing life into people's life.
Well, it's become customary for hundreds of years to say that because a person made a mistake, they are a mistake.
Yeah.
Or because they experienced a mistake, they are sinful. A mistake is a mistake.
Yeah.
Sin is a sin. A person is a person. We should separate them.
Yeah. And are they forgivable?
Of course.
And that's exactly the point, is that they are. That if, you know, like, and again, you know, I know that this reaches many different demographics of people, but the reality is, if you can't forgive somebody else, it's really hard to forgive yourself.
Well, I think if you can't forgive somebody else, you haven't forgiven yourself.
Well, yeah, but you can't until you're willing to.
Right.
You know, you have to first give to receive.
Right.
And especially when it comes to this. And that's a hard thing for us to do, especially when we want it all about me. And it's, you know, and the reality is, really love is that I give everything so that you may live. And you have that opportunity. And you know what, I may die having to do it. And I'm okay with that now. And especially from a victim standpoint, that was an untrue statement. When would somebody help me? And those things started changing when I started helping others. And now, you know, but that's not always true, you know, because I know some other people that it really took someone there and physically just pouring themselves out into another human's life. And I have a friend of mine, amazing woman, just absolutely profound woman, and she just, after her grief of her husband, she was still young, and so she got married, and so 2 years later, her other boyfriend dies in a motorcycle accident. So she has two huge losses back to back in her life. And I remember sitting there going, man, this has got to really suck to be her, you know, because anybody that she loves just dies, and she's beginning to believe this. And I remember I spent 2 years, all I would do was hang out with her, just be her friend. And when she'd get in her worst, I'd just stay there. I'd go. There were times where I had to push the cart through the grocery store and say, you have to go grocery shopping, you have to get food, you have to do this. And, you know, 2 years later, I'm thinking, man, I want to give up on this. This is really stretching me out, you know, like, because I mean, and then one day she just kind of, I don't want to be like this anymore. And she goes, and the only reason I don't want to be like this anymore is I've watched you this long that you never gave up on me. You know, and it's like, well, yeah, was it worth that investment? Yes, it was. To see her today is amazing. She's married, she has kids, she's an amazing woman, but 2-year investment on someone else's life to see them bring life to this planet that is beautiful and a great family. And we don't value that anymore as much. We get caught up in the material, and we get caught up in that stuff, but man, life is so much more precious than that. And that's really my message is that the value of humanity is so much greater than any material object.
Digressing a little bit, it is so hard in general in our culture for men to experience something bad and talk about it. Because when they're little boys, they're told, buck up, be a man, don't cry, don't feel.
That's right.
You know, don't look sad, be a man, be a man. When they're 5, be a man. Get realistic. When they're 3 and 4, be a little man.
Yeah.
As if men don't have emotions. It is so cruel to take a human being, any human being, and dissect part of their natural God-given emotions away and say, you can't have these because you're a certain sex. A woman, you know, don't think, don't make the decisions, don't be mechanical. Don't. And a man, another part of his personality, don't. We are all complete human beings with different strengths. Different strengths, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and in that same conversation of that, is we were looking at, you know, again, what we think we know, especially most of these came from very, very religious constructs. All of this belief system has all come from very religious constructs. And the difference is that we said that God said that when God didn't say that at all.
Right.
And the reason we know this is like, for a man to dance naked before God, if you were to do that today in a church, you're going to prison. They will hang you high in a church if you did pull that stunt. Yet, one of God's favorite people in the Bible did that same act. He didn't respond to the people until they cried out before God. So there must have been an emotional disturbance that would create a crying out. Like for me, being at the point of death, I cried out. Cried out. Save me from myself. Save me from whatever's going on. You know, and to really devalue that. And then on the other end of that, like for men, because they don't have that, we've been taught our whole lives that, you know, that it's this projected concept that, and I say it and again, in context, it seems very heinous, but we've taught it and we teach it to men this way. That all women are hookers, none of them are giving it away. What will it cost me? All of commercialism, all of the things that we see on TV show us this. They show us that it costs us something. Well, what are we doing to women? What are we teaching them? That if they have this, then you can give them this? Instead of, no, my love is free.
Right.
And I do it to invest into your life, not for it to be all about me.
Right.
But we don't teach that. I mean, we teach like, if you give me to a girl, give me a kiss, no, give me a piece of candy. I mean, you know, family dynamics. What are you teaching this? This core fundamental being that if this is pure and this should be never tampered with, and then we go to this other sect that says, women, submit to your husbands, do what you're told. Well, the reality is that's a conditional thing. And the reality is, freedom isn't about control. Freedom, really, my freedom is that I have the potential to do it, but I choose not to, for the sake and the value of someone else's life.
Right.
And we don't do it that way. I can do whatever I want because I'm allowed to do whatever I want. Just because we can, just still not make it right, I have to still choose to say, what is right? And really value that in my life. And when we don't teach it as a culture, we don't teach it in education systems, we are teaching it's all about me and it's all about that. Well, life doesn't become valuable when you just think about myself. Because I'm so easily to discard my own self. What would I do to your life? If I can discard myself so quickly, how quickly would I do it to you? And that's really, you know, I think that, you know, besides chivalry, you know, I think the real concept of honor is gone in a lot of places where I don't honor you because you earned it. I honor you because you deserve it.
The value of our lives is truly defined by what we truly value. The thing that we give is the effect we had on the lives we touched as we passed through. Not the toys we collected.
No.
They'll go in the junk pile in some garbage dump.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got to consider, you know, I mean, like Abraham Lincoln, why is his legacy so important to us? Why does that stick out to us? Why? Because he created a legacy. He fought for freedom and he gave his life for it to the bitter end. And you look at some of the great people in life, it wasn't their inheritance that made them anything. But these people who stood up for something that we can, you know, we were reminded to say, they gave it for that. And that's legacy, that's inheritance to me. To see someone else's heritage to say, look, you know, because of what they did, look at their sons, look at their daughters they produced because of that. They were able to introduce life and produce life its lineages on versus, oh, they have all this wealth. No, we created great people. We created an entire lineage of people who now care about themselves, care about others, are willing to sacrifice for others. That's an inheritance that lives forever. Finances don't do that. And I recognize that now more than ever because it's like, could my potential, you know, there's a saying that's said from a church, it's an amazing church, and they say that my ceiling should be the floor for my children. Well, what kind of ceiling will I give my children? Because I'm not dead yet.
There you go.
And I have so much more to still bestow upon life that they will reap those benefits. And can I teach it to them so that they would produce it too? So that their care, they have compassion, and they are doing that not because they have to, but they have a desire to because they found that that is the truth, that is something that is right. Yeah.
Nature has designed life to grow beyond its roots.
Mm-hmm.
Of course we want our children to grow beyond us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That they may continue to grow beyond us. And hopefully the lives they touch as well.
You know, that for them to be prosperous.
Yes.
Just because you have kids, you know, like I was thinking about that. We were in Roseburg, and one of the things I asked them, do you think that the pioneers who came and settled here said, hey, I hope that we become the highest level of unemployment? Do you think that that was their prayer? Do you think that that was their dreams for this place? They're like, no. What happened that this began to happen? And now we have such a poor poverty mindset that you can't see past that. But if you go back and you go dig that well up that your grandma prayed over you and said, you know, we wanted you to be prosperous, we wanted you to be productive, get your focus off of yourself and give to your community, give to others, and serve to the highest level of your potential. Well, what happened to your city? You know, it's a proven fact that even in economics, they've actually proven this, that if I help you become wealthy, it helps me be wealthy. So why does that principle, is a biblical principle, does not change either how we invest in another human's life?
They teach that about shopping centers. A long time ago, stores were selfish. And then they started to realize that if they got together and backed and supported each other, they'd all have more business. And that's how shopping centers came to be.
It goes to, we have to be balanced. And, you know, I always tell this to a lot of people. You can be way over here and way over here and still be just as wrong. If you met in the middle of both of those truths, you would find that, you know, I need a little bit of both in my life. Because it keeps me from going off the deep end. Because one is when we do that, if we're on one extreme to another extreme, we're passing judgment on the other extreme.
One of the things that I dearly love about California, and I haven't always lived there, of course, but when I leave and come back, I'm always so grateful for the diversity. Because the differences, not the similarities, create the bridges of understanding and friendship and growth. And they welcome the differences. Instead of condemning them, they're open to the differences. And I find that beautiful. I love it. Because my late husband used to say, if two people are exactly alike, one of them's unnecessary.
Correct.
The differences are our strength.
Yeah. I love that line too, because I've heard that too. Another one too is if there was such a thing as a perfect place, the second you get there, you're going to mess it up. You know, it doesn't exist. It does not. It doesn't occur anywhere. And we have to accept that and saying, you know what, it's not about it being perfect.
No.
It's just as I am progressing forward in my life. And not willing to give up on it, and at the same time giving as much as I can give.
Now, what can you do with the tools you have now, today, to make life a little better just because you were in it? What can you do today to touch a life as you pass through this day, that day was better because you were in it?
Yeah.
Just that simple.
Yeah. And living the day. I think there's a lot of people who don't live the day. I mean, everything's going on and we get so caught up in being so busy. I have the same amount of time as everybody else. But would I go make time to go help somebody else out?
Right.
And finding that helps me way more in my life than doing all the other. I mean, I spent a lot of my life being a workaholic. And now I'm almost like a stay-at-home mom almost. But I'm loving the investment that I bring upon my kids. And just the casual walks that I have. I mean, Walmart is my fishing hole. I mean, I spend a lot of times, you know, there. The next thing you know, I'll have a 2-hour conversation with another person, and they can't stop you for that.
In summing this up, what would you say as an overall message that you could give kids? Because no child comes from a state of perfection. And now, especially now, we have so many children coming up, latchkey kids, kids that don't have two parents, kids that are being raised by grandparents that are really too old to take care of them and can't do a good job because they're physically incapable themselves and need help. We have more and more neglected children, children of emotional needs that are not being met. If you could reach out and touch these kids, what would you tell them?
I'm actually doing that right now, and just I'm actually teaching a class, and I'm teaching the culture of honor to kids from the ages of 5 to 10. And I've had to take a very adult concept and bring it down into a child's life and saying, how do I do that? Well, we're visually stimulated people. There's a movie that came out, and I do give credit to that movie. I mean, the Guardian Angels of Gahul has just such a great analogy for kids to see a system that's in play now and potential for a system to be. And I really believe that, especially for younger generations, their identity being formed at such a young age, and what we don't realize as adults is that we really do set before these kids their primary belief systems. By the time they're 5 years old, their common belief systems are then built. And to unbuild those when you're an adult are extremely difficult. They're not easy. They're not, and it's because you have to undo years of layers of that. But for kids in that who what I actually call the orphaned generation, and I really see that. And we live with such a high level of orphan children who have no love, and yes, they have parents, they have grandparents, but they can't. They don't have the ability. One, either they're hurt or they're so caught up in trying to provide a thing for them that doesn't really exist, a perfect life that doesn't exist. And so we have all these orphan children that they should be loved more, they should be caressed more, they should have more attention brought upon in their life because they deserve it. Plus, they're just amazing kids to, they can teach you so much. But I really see, like in our society today, that we really need to focus on asking children, what inside you moves you the most? What do you think your purpose is? What do you think you're designed for? You can ask both my kids this question. One is 5 and one is 7. I've asked them both this question. What do you think your purpose is? And how can I help you in your purpose? How can I, as an adult, your parent, help you with the purpose that you feel is in your heart? And I've done it with kids who are broken, to kids who have normal families, or quote-unquote normal. And every one of them will say the most profound things to us that we would just be shocked to hear them say. Because really, deep down inside, we all have one. And we all want to actually not be so much acknowledged for it, but be allowed to do it.
That's correct.
And so I've opened this area for them to express it, so they tell me. I have a daughter who's upstairs right now who, I don't know very many little kids, I don't even know adults who can pray for 35 minutes straight. She can. But what she wants to do, here's a 5-year-old. This is what she wants to do for her birthday. This is the level that letting a kid have a potential to say, what is your purpose? What do you want to do? And let me see if I can help you. On my birthday, I want to go to the Burnside Bridge. And I want to go buy hamburgers and milkshakes. And I want to give them French fries. And I want to give it to them because it's free. And we want to give God's love to them for free. And we don't want to charge them for the gospel. Okay, that's a 5-year-old thought. I didn't initiate that conversation. This was, I want you to ask God this question. What is my purpose? What would you want me to do? Go. Now all the kids come back. Now we're writing on the board. What is your purpose? What do you have? What are you going to do? How can I help you with your purpose? Every one of those kids said things that would just straight blow most adults out of the water because we think that they're adult concepts. And yet to a child, it's 101 to them. Helping others. Doing good. Encouraging others. My son, that's his thing. I want to encourage others and I want to be a better giver. That's what he wants to do. That's what he feels his purpose is. As a dad, now I have to sit there and go, how can I help my son be that? And I'm finding that we're going to need other people who not directly your family member, but have to allow that there are people who can be moms and dads, who can be big brothers and big sisters, to invest into another person's life, to allow that potential to grow. And that's what I really think is the biggest key. Finding out what your purpose is, and then letting them do it on their own, and helping them go through their mistakes in it, because we all do it. We get all eager beaver and mess up. But allowing them just to continue and be successful that way.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much for your wisdom, and above that, for your heart and mind.
Thank you so much, Bishop. It's an honor.